Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is some Boolean algebra, Boolean logic, which will make more complex decisions. So on the next tab over, where it says operators, Excel has three functions, and, or, and not, that allow you to make decisions that have more than one criteria to them, like, I'm male and I'm over 25, or I'm male or I'm over 25, those sorts of questions like that, and we can get some answers out of them, and we can do some interesting things with them. So here's a classic example of some mythical college. We're looking to admit people for next fall. We have some basic information about them, what they did on the SATs, their grade, their rank in class, the grades, their GPA from high school, and then they wrote an essay and we graded it A, B, C, D, E, and stuff like that. All right. So we set up some rules that we used from last year. We said the cutoff point last year was 625 for both the SAT scores and that sort of stuff there. And so I set this model up this way, and then over here, I just tested to see if they passed that rule or not. And all I'm simply doing here is asking, is this number here, 628, is that bigger than 625? Okay. In that instance, it happens to be true, but all we're doing is comparing those two things and seeing if one's bigger than the other. And if it is, it's true. If it's not, it's false. That's Boolean logic, right? So this first person got past rule 1, didn't do rule 2, rule 3 they didn't pass, and so on. Okay. So I can do that sort of stuff. I can make a comparison here. I can use the less than, greater than, equal, less than. Not equal would be a less than sign followed immediately by a greater than sign, if you wanted to compare, say these two quantities are equal or not. Okay. So I did that for each one of these rules, and they were easy enough to set up. And then I just copied them down, and then I did conditional formatting to help make this thing easier to understand. So I just highlighted this region like that, did conditional formatting, and I set up a rule that says if the value in that cell is equal to true, T-R-U-E, that's a value just like the number 1 is, or the letter A, it's just a value, and it's the true. And if the value in that cell happens to be the Boolean value true, then format the cell to be green so I can see it. It makes it much easier to see what's going on here. See, if you do this, it's hard to see where it's true and false here. This is one of the places where conditional formatting really shines. So I did that. Okay? Everybody with me here? All right. So these are just simple Boolean expressions that we can see are true or false depending on the values here. So then it comes time to omit people, and very few pass all 5 rules, right? There's one person here, there's another person, oh, that person doesn't. What, I only got 1 out of 100? Maybe 2. Anyway, you can see there's not many that passed all 5 rules. Well, we can't survive as a college if we only admit 2 students next fall, right? Great for them, but not good for the college. So we said, well, look, let's be realistic about this. That if you're a physics major, your verbal score doesn't necessarily have to be that high, right? Or if you're an English major, your math score doesn't have to be that high, right? Because what are you going to do with math if you're an English major? So, yeah, we want well-rounded students, but we're trying to be realistic about it. So then we said, okay, what we'll do is if they pass 4 out of the 5 rules, then we'll let them in. Okay. So it doesn't matter which 4. It could be the first 4 or, the last 4 or the first 2 and the last 2. Whatever combination of 4, if they meet those 4 criteria, we'll let them in. Okay. So over in that next set of columns, I set up all the different combinations I could have. So this first one here is if they pass Rule 1 and Rule 2 and Rule 3 and Rule 4. So if they do that, we'll send them out an admission letter. And over here, I've got rule 1, rule 2, 3, and 5, and so on, right? So then all I have to, because look, this one again, listen to what I'm saying here. Rule 1 and rule 2 and rule 4 and rule 5, and. With and statements like that, Boolean and statements like that. For the statement to be true, all parts have to be true. If any one of those 4 is false, then the statement's said to be false. So then all we have to do here in our formula is, well, let's just do this one. It's this, right? If the value in J6 is true, and the value in K6 is true, and the value in L6 is true, and the value in N6 is true, then let them in. All right. Now, if it helps you understand this, I took a shortcut here because I know these are equivalent. If N6 equals true, that's just a shortcut. The way I set it up, there was just a shortcut, so I didn't have to write the equals true each time. All right? So, and then again, you set this thing up, and you can just copy the thing down, and you're done. So I have to write the rule, the formula once here at the top of each one of these columns. So it doesn't matter how many students I have, I can set this thing up. Does that make sense here? For a Boolean expression that has and in it, all parts have to be true. If any one or more parts is false, then the whole statement is false. Okay. All right. So then we said, but then we have to pass 4 out of the 5 rules. We didn't care which one. So we said, look, they can either do this one, or if they meet that set of rules, or this set of rules, or this set of rules, or this set of rules. Again, listen carefully. This rule, that column, or the next column, or the next column, or the next column. So with the or statement, it's the entire expression is said to be true if any part of it's true. So all we need to have is one of these to be true for that to be a true statement. Okay. If this column if there's a true here, or if there's a true here, or here, or here, or here. Okay. If there's more than one, it's still true. The bare minimum requirement is at least one part has to be true. And that's a true statement. So then over here, I simply use the OR function, and I said, look, and again in here you can just do it this way. If this is true, or this is true, and so on, and so then I've got these people here, and it turns out now that I've omitted 18 out of 100. All right. So we can do that sort of stuff. HR departments use this all the time to decide which people they should bring in for interviews. They'll set up some matrix like this, your qualifications and stuff, and they'll go through and select the people they think they should interview. So this is not that far-fetched. Anyway, if 18's not enough, we need a bigger class. We need to fill up the dorms. We need to have enough students to keep all the professors busy and all that sort of stuff because we need their tuition, right? Well, we could do one of two things. We could come back here, and since this thing is set up now, we could relax some of our requirements. Being in the top 20 in your class is pretty extreme, so we could drop that down to, say, the top 50 or something like that. So all I have to do is just change that number there, and everything gets updated automatically. All right. So it seems like it takes, it took me a few more minutes to set this up, not that much more, maybe a minute or so. But when I'm all done, I can use this to analyze all sorts of different combinations and stuff here. So I can just come back and type in different numbers, and now I can see my yield is 23 out of 100. So it's 23%. Maybe that's what I want. So I've got that done. Or the other approach we could do is we could go to 3 out of 5. Okay? And then we have to pass 3 out of 5 of those rules. Because what we're looking for are people who are bright in just certain areas, not necessarily everything. We're not looking for well-rounded students anymore. We're just looking for people who are bright in one thing or two. Doesn't matter. To do that, though, let's see. You're going to have to set up, what did I figure out here? 10 columns to do that. Instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, I'd have to have 10 of these. But it'd still be, I could do that, all right? Well, there's another way you can do this. We could use the COUNTIF and count up the number of trues in each one of these rows, and then we could just check to see if the number of trues is above some number. Now, you can also take this shortcut here. Find it right here. There it is. If you write your formula this way, you can't do it. You can't put these inside of a function. But if you write your formula this way, it'll translate all trues to ones and all falses to zeros. And you can just add them up this way. If you can't remember that trick, you can just use the COUNTIF that we just used in the last one. You can count up how many are true in each one of those. And this way, you get even more flexibility here, because now I can say, okay, I can just say the criteria is 3, and I can see what my yield turns out down here. It's up to 16 and stuff like that. All right, so we can do stuff like that. If you've got a lot of things like this, just counting up the number of trues or falses, whichever way you want to do it, is the way to go. Questions about ands or ors? Nothing? Okay. So, on the next page, your second P2. We're going to evaluate people for health risk, and then, once we figure out what their risk factor is, we'll figure out which pool to put them into for insurance purposes and stuff like that. If you hover over these things that got these little red triangles, I put little comments in there, and that's the rule for that column. So if they smoke or drink, you should put a true there, and if otherwise, put a false there. For this third one, I would suggest you break that up into 3 steps instead of trying to do it in one column here. But I'll let you struggle with that for a while, then I'll come around and give you some help on that one. And 4, you're going to need a nested if, and so on and so forth. All right, so go ahead and work on that, and we'll come around.